Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, this article came across to me, and I can honestly say that I knew this would probably be an issue among other diseases and other issues that could probably um, happen in the near future. I live in Los Angeles, California, so I drive through the downtown LA area very frequently, almost practically every week. And I have seen trash all over in certain areas or certain parts of downtown Los Angeles. And so when I saw this article talking about Flea, Borne, Typhus outbreak among homeless in downtown Los Angeles, I was not shocked at all when I saw this. In fact, I thought there would be a lot more that would happen, and I would suspect that there will be a lot more disease and outbreaks of vermin, maybe flus, illnesses, because of all of the trash and the litter that is in the downtown area. It is horrible. And a lot of that is because there's this growing population of homeless people in homeless encampments that are just down there like every week. And so, ever so often, they will send some people from the city to do a cleanup, but I don't know how regular or how frequent the cleanup is, but there's been many weeks that I've seen trash just piling up in the downtown of Los Angeles. Now, I don't know if you recall some videos I have done in the past about downtown Los Angeles, the gentrification that has happened down there. There's like lofts, there's condominiums that have been developed in the downtown Los Angeles area. However, there's also been homeless encampments in certain parts of Los Angeles among all of this, under freeways, under on ramps and overpasses, and there's little alleyways where you'll see some trash litter all about in downtown of Los Angeles. There's certain parts of downtown Los Angeles where there's nothing but homeless encampment. And so that's gotta be, I would say, on looking at it from a health standpoint of view, uh, something that could potentially turn into something that might be dangerous for people who live in those areas or near those areas. Two, you can see on the sidewalks, there's sometimes not only the litter of the trash, there's animals that are attracted, and as they say here, the flea-borne typhus outbreak has now started. So I'm going to read this article to you, and so not to freak you out, but it's by Andrew Blankstein and Eric Leonard, or Leonard, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So this is not a shocker to me at all. So this pictured here, animals such as cats, rodents, possums can all carry fleas that may be infected with typhus. And so a lot of these people that live in the downtown area, in these nice condominiums and lofts, sometimes you can see them walking their pets. And so, even though some of those streets are cleaned off, still homeless people are, I say, plentiful in that downtown region. And so, trash, somehow, all of those things, articles that people use, going to the bathroom, feces, urine, you can smell that still in the downtown area. That's how it has become now because of the homeless encampments and the population that has grown over the years. So it says, what to know: typhus can cause fever, chills, body aches, nausea, and vomiting, cough, rash, but can be treated with an antibiotic. That's good to know. However, living in the downtown of Los Angeles, you might have a greater chance of having this with your pets or contracting this. So outbreak comes after a TB outbreak in the same area. So typhus spreads through fleas and rats and feces. A flea-borne typhus outbreak among homeless in downtown Los Angeles triggered an investigation by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health after several cases were reported, the agency said on Thursday. So NBC, which is Channel 4, sources say that the number may be upwards of at least a dozen. So typhus can cause fever, chills, body aches, nausea, and vomiting, cough, and rash, and can be treated with antibiotics. But if not treated, however, it can be fatal. So flea-borne typhus is a bacteria that spreads to humans when they come in contact with infected fleas or rat feces. Animals such as cats, rodents, possums all attract these fleas. So piles of garbage may also attract fleas, leading them to humans through these means. The Center of Disease Control, which is the CDC, and prevention has not been informed by the city or county, NBC sources say. So the scope of the outbreak is hard to assess because it could take 1 to 2 weeks to detect, meaning the full extent of the number of infections is likely unknown at this time. So the outbreak follows a tuberculosis outbreak in the same area along numerous staph infections reported. Mayor Eric Garcetti office said staff learned of the outbreak, which began last week. So this is fairly recent, from the County Department of Public Health Thursday. So Public Health provided the following tips on protecting oneself. 89,000 pounds of ham recall. So that's an unrelated story, but that's similar. It's about every time they have one story, they have stories that are sort of similar. And so it says you have to practice safe flea control. So use flea control products on your pets. When outside, you have to wear your pants into your socks or your boots to protect yourself. Spray insect repellent with DEET on socks and pants cuffs. Avoid being near wild or stray animals, and never feed or touch wild stray animals, especially possums, rats, strays, or feral cats. Store your trash in cans with secure lids to avoid attracting these stray animals that may carry the fleas, of course. Get rid of places where rats and stray animals sleep, hide, find food like crawl spaces, attics, or under decks. Protect yourself by wearing gloves and a mask when cleaning these areas. Wash your hands when you're finished. And so that's pretty much the article right there. So I'll pan back up This is the flea or flea-like creature that can spread typhus. And so this is the problem in the downtown of Los Angeles, among other issues. There's been many uh, developments that have been built. I pass through it every week. I see where there's a lot of homeless encampments, but there's so many condominiums and there's lofts, there's expensive, um, how would you say, you'd have to make six figures or maybe even more just to live in some of those condos. But I know that they've been leasing them out. So I've discovered that some of those condos, you don't necessarily have to purchase them to buy, but they are up for sale. But many of them are leasable. And so even with the lease, you have to have like 2 to 3 thousand a month, or maybe even more, just to pay for leasing those lofts and condominiums. And so a lot of those um, high-priced condominiums, lofts, are in like towering high-rise buildings, or buildings that have been refurbished, that have been there for quite some time, many years, in the downtown of Los Angeles. And what they do is they they restore the buildings. They've been doing a lot of development in the downtown of Los Angeles. And so there's some streets that are really, really, how would you say, it reminds me of like Little Manhattan, or a really flashy part of downtown, because we have the Staples Center and the Convention Center, and then there's some of the courthouse buildings and the corporate buildings in the downtown of Los Angeles. A lot of people will commute from farther out just to work downtown, because that's usually where most of the money is, in that metropolis area downtown. And it's well noted for corporate and the courthouses and Parker Center, the Staples Center, the Convention Center, a number of booming businesses and companies that are down in that area, very densely populated area. And so this flea-borne typhus outbreak is a reality, because among all of the nice, fancy, upscale living, there's still the homeless encampments that are in some of the nook and crannies of downtown. We still have the existing Skid Row that I believe will never go away, and it actually has grown over the years. A lot of times what they do is they try to move or remove the homeless. If they've been in a place for far too long, they try to remove their belongings and have them to move further, closer to the Skid Row area, or to areas where you don't see the homeless. Not that they don't exist, but that they're not as visible in the, upscale parts of downtown Los Angeles. That doesn't mean that they don't exist and they're not there, because as you drive under underpasses of freeways, or if you're going to go on an on-ramp, there's little overpasses, there's little areas and pockets where you can see tents, and I see it every day. And so along with those tents, there's a lot of piles of trash. There's a lot of, you can smell the urine. And I would believe there's more than likely feces, because if you're there and your encampment is there, you're defecating, using the restroom. And if you can smell the urine, more than likely there's going to be feces. And so there's piles and piles of trash that pile up throughout the weeks. And then maybe I say 2 to 3 weeks, all of a sudden there's a cleanup that happens. I guess there's a truck that'll come around and they'll do like a cleanup, but there's so many homeless encampments and they're so overworked. It's like, how frequent do they get around? So this was not a shock to me when I saw this article about the Flea-borne typhus outbreak among homeless in downtown of Los Angeles, because if you drive down there, literally, you're going to see piles of trash in certain areas. Especially, I find this a lot when you're coming from Hill Street and you're headed towards Washington before you get to Trade Technical College. There's freeway overpasses, and underneath the freeway, there's a lot of like empty lots and areas, and there's a lot of tents, homeless encampments, and piles of trash and litter, literally everywhere. And so it also has happened even like in areas from Washington on Budlong. There's a freeway overpass, and there are these RVs, and there's also a lot of frequent, you see this a lot, piles of trash, litter, bottles, what looks like diapers that have been soiled. There'll be like food, like open containers of food, like food containers. And that also, with the food that hasn't been eaten, it lays out there. So it's a haven for rats and for possums and for wild animals and feral cats, which would carry this type of flea that happens to have the typhus. And so anyway, with that being said, it's funny that they keep building these high-rise condominiums or building on old buildings and turning them into like upscale living, but the price you pay for that upscale living, you're living amongst this outbreak. And so I just thought that was pretty interesting. I wonder, are they going to try to make precautionary measures to spray down there in areas? Because if this is prevalent, it's only going to get worse, because the homeless population, no matter how much they try to avoid or ignore it, it has grown significantly because there's an extreme housing crisis in the Los Angeles area. And it's not just in Los Angeles, but specifically speaking about Los Angeles, there is a growing homeless crisis. And I'm going to say that again, there's a growing homeless crisis. And so that is why this is happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if other diseases will come out of this and other outbreaks. Well, with that being said, I'm going to let this video go, and I would like to thank you for listening.